how to turn your front brake from this into this. Okay, so we get a lot of inquiries on front or rear brake bleeding, but front brakes are especially difficult. We have kind of a worst case scenario here on bleeding a brake. We have a brand new cable on rebuilt, master cylinder and caliper down below. This is on an older KX125, which has an extra loop at the bottom, so it's even more difficult. So we're gonna give you some tips on that. We're gonna do that right now, and we'll show you what we do. First thing we do is we get a good, high quality, high temperature DOT4 brake fluid, and I buy this at the auto parts store. Way less expensive than buying the fancy stuff. So we fill up this bottle, which we have just an older bottle laying around. It's kind of nice. I cut a hole for a hose and stuff that in there, and it helps us be able to pour really easily into the bikes, especially the rear, but it's even convenient to have for the front. We get a good flow, as you'll see in the video. Okay, this is Vacula. Now this is kind of a high-end brake bleeder. This one's about 15, 16 years old or so maybe, and it was pretty expensive new. And it's really nice and aids in this process a ton. Now, in our Google Doc, we have a link to some that are currently like on Amazon that are like $85. You can get pretty decent ones. So that's totally fine and does the job really well as well. For 85 bucks, I think it's well worth doing it over a hand pump. Okay, so of course we're gonna wanna have this off. And we have a new cap gonna go on, our Works Connection cap anyway. Okay, so we do have a new line. This is a Galfer line for this bike. And they give you a side that tells you which way, so when you position it. Also, another thing, you don't want to make marks on here, but if you hold it, your pliers really tight, you can actually move the line different directions. And right now, right about there, I want it to be in the middle of here. It's really nice, and you can see it's all pretty well here. We got it clamped on here. Well, I put a little piece of rubber to use the stock mount. There's other mounts you can use that can help as well. Another little tip I like to do is on my new screws that are going to go back in, I put a tiny bit of grease on that surface and a tiny bit here. And when you put it all back together, you can wipe off any excess that hangs out. This will prevent, I'm sure anybody that's been around dirt bikes long enough has seen these screws get stripped out. That's why I was using this screwdriver on the stock ones. That's a JIS, a Japanese Industrial Standard. So you want to make sure that your Phillips fits in here perfectly well. So I moved and I'm probably gonna move the brake lever too. I moved the throttle. You can see I rolled it back out of the way. To make life easy, I'm gonna move the throttle, the brake to where it's level here, and I can move it back after we're done. This will make it so we can have more fluid in here while we're flushing it. Another thing, we have a brand new lever. So for bleeding purposes, I like to have it at full adjustment so we have much more throw on it. Even though I got short fingers, I'll usually run it in, but for this bleeding part, there's our adjustment for those that are wondering how to adjust this lever. So the further in this goes, this way, that's gonna bring the lever out here further for those guys with longer fingers. So I'm gonna get it about in here. This gives us some good, and I'm just gonna snug it. That way, if for some reason I did forget to bring it back in, this nut's not gonna back out of here. Okay, so when we put these lines on, I failed to mention that we got these tight. We put a little bit of brake fluid on those washers. That really helps on both those washers that we have those on there. Now they're good and tight. We also have some towels set up here on the ground, so if we have any spills, it's not a terrible mess. Okay, so I have my bleeder set up right here. So I'll be working down here a lot while Spencer's on top. And I've set this wrench to where when I go down like this, I can go all the way open and then all the way shut. And I've kind of got myself all set up for that right now. So it's really nice having two people to do this. It's a lot better. My wife does help. She doesn't not really like to, but she does when Spencer's not around. Having a second person up here to do this is really helpful. And this way he's gonna be able to keep this full, never let this run out. So whoever's up here, if they let this run out, you're kind of starting over. You're sucking in air, it's a drag. So this person up here is just gonna pay attention. Now, for some of our video, our compressor is gonna be kicking on. So we'll have a little bit of time lapse in those sections maybe, but we're gonna talk about it as we go to give you tips on this detailed for this front brake bleeding. So we're gonna start by getting our bleeder starting to pull right from the top.
And I want to keep it full. As you can see, it needs to stay full. And it will start to, because it's a new line, it goes pretty fast. And depending on what bike you have, sometimes they go faster than not and all that. So good on there.
We got fluid coming out the bottom now. Now we're having Spencer hold the lever all the way to the bar. For a while, we're gonna give it a session of that.
You got to stay on top of keeping it full here. You do not want to run out.
Hold. All right, he's holding up top. I'm gonna let it out here and give some more. Quite pumping. Okay, so now we're not going to use this air too much more. Hold it. Go. We're kind of just doing it by hand, like old school. I find this works at the end very well. Hold. Go. Hold. Go. Hold. Go. Hold. Go.
I'm up here just keeping it a decent level.
Hold. Go. Hold. Go. Hold it. Go. Hold. Go. Hold it. Go.
It's pretty good on level and it feels really good.
So I'm gonna suck all the fluid out of my line here. Get that out of here. And then I'm gonna contact clean down here with some brake cleaner, contact cleaner. And just make sure this is good and tight in case we're not coming back here. And we have a rubber boot to put back on here. Put a little bit of lube in here. Much less squeaky.
Yeah.
That sounds better. Okay, so this is kind of the most important step. Is we feel like 80-90% done up top, and this is where a lot of guys don't do it. We're going to reverse. We're going to push on the piston and the caliper, try to get the air to go back up to the top, and we'll show you how we do that right now. And I like to do this to finish up to really make sure that it all comes out. So you can see I put my hands like this, and I'm pulling against the rotor, and that pushes the piston this way, and it pushes the fluid up to the top.
So this level is higher right here, and I'm gonna have no brake right now, right? And then as I pump back up, the brake comes back. And I don't wanna pump too much because that's pushing the air bubbles back down. The whole point of this is to get air bubbles to come up. So when he pushes that piston in, I do 2 or 3 till it's stiff, and then I stop. And we just beat on this line, and we try to get the air to come
I
up.
do this right here, and this is gonna let bubbles come up.
And then right now, just watch this as he pushes on it.
Any bubbles?
No bubbles.
No bubbles. Did you have bubbles the first time?
No.
No, okay. So we like to get at least 3 passes with no bubbles, and we know we're good.
Okay, you're good?
This one's got a bunch of movement right here. Okay, here we go. Let's watch it.
No bubbles.
Okay, we're gonna do another one.
Yeah.
This one, it felt pretty strong down here. So it could be good. Let's watch it again.
Come up here.
Here we go.
No bubbles.
No bubbles.
Yeah.
We were hoping to show you some bubbles, but
Yeah.
we did too good a job.
We did a really good job on the
How's it feel?
first part. It feels awesome.
Feels awesome.
Yeah.
Like a new bike?
Yeah, it feels, and then here's the thing, it feels better now than it did once we finished just with the Vacula. This will make your brake just feel even stronger.
And we'll show you the final step, what we do. Let's go ahead. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
No bubbles.
No bubbles. All right, so
Yeah.
we're going to call that good.
Yeah. Cool.
Back on brake bleeding, we are a few days later, we have a Honda CR250R here. We just bled it, just as you saw in that video with the KX, and we haven't back bled it yet. We're gonna see if we can get some bubbles coming up here. Do you see what to look for? I have my hands like this, and I'm pushing on this piston with my fingers on the rotor down here, and I'm gonna push up like that. And then Spencer's gonna pump it up. And I'm gonna tap this. Ready, set.
Yep. A few little bubbles just coming up.
Okay. Here we go again. Again, I like to see 3 times with no bubbles. What we got there?
Bubbles.
Bubbles. Okay. Ready, go. Usually, it takes a few times.
It's got some little more bubbles.
It can take, I don't know, 7, 8 times, you think?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you like what we do and you like this kind of tech content, if you're gonna shop Rocky Mountain, use our link. It's down below in the description of this video or off our website or our link tree. Use our link when you go to buy from Rocky Mountain. How's our level there? Can we add a tiny bit more?
Well, we're at that line. Yeah.
All right, so we're looking good on our level, and we're gonna rotate it backwards. So we're gonna put in our pieces here. We have that grease on the bolts. This is a step where you don't want to be adding too much torque to these things. You just want to get them good and snug.
Good and snug.
I've never had any come loose, ever. So only the opposite's true. So I'm gonna snug them up. Just good and snug. Okay, so now I'm gonna clean that area up a little bit. A little contact cleaner. Get all that off. So now I'm gonna move the lever up to where I had it. And also, I think I need to move it inboard here a little bit, away from the grip, yeah. And I'm gonna be up here in line with our clutch lever, probably about right in there. So then I can get that good and snug back, and then I can rotate my throttle back down. Something about like that. Okay, so now before I put that boot on, it is a good time to get this lever where I want it. So I'm gonna want this lever, yeah, probably not too far from there. Okay, that feels pretty good. So you can just grab this jam nut right here and you're gonna get that snugged up. Feels pretty good. Okay, so I've been soaking this. I had it in some scraping bubbles, and I even put a little bit of our tire foam, which does good to rubber pieces. If this thing was really bad, this thing's not cut, which is really nice, but I would put it in a bag overnighter for a couple days with that tire foam, and that would really bring this rubber back to life. A little bit of silicone spray. I'll work that in there, and I'm gonna dry it off. Okay, so we got our boot all cleaned up. That thing is nice, huh?
Oh yeah.
And this boot is a stock boot, so this boot has got to be, you know, this is a 2000, so it's plenty old. And you can see I put it on wrong, right? There we go. So, and that happens on a ton of the bikes we get around, you know, here that are, you know, guys on old bikes we buy or whatever. But they make it easy for you because you got an indent here that goes right over the bolt head. I can feel the bolt head, and they made this part to pivot right on there. So pay attention to how it goes on. Look at how nice that looks. Okay, this little cool device is holding the lever in. So whenever we do a brakes, you could let it sit like this overnight or for the weekend or whatever in your shop or whatever. This will let any residual bubbles come back up. You just leave it like this. If you don't have one of these cool ones from our Tech 167 guy, you can simply put a zip tie around here. Okay, so that's a zip tie on there. That's all we would do. And you can either cut it off, or sometimes you can actually walk it off and save the zip tie. You can just walk it on like that and let that thing sit overnight like that. And it'll get any residual bubbles will kind of come to the top. Okay, so that's a look at it. I think even us filming it took a little longer, but this job took about 30 minutes, if that. I mean, that was setting it all up, so it's really doesn't need to be a long job. And if you're spending hours and hours, and I get a lot of guys who don't do that step at the bottom of pushing fluid up, or try to do it without like our vacula, it can be a lot more difficult. So that's how easy it can be. If you just take your time like that, you shouldn't have any problems. And hopefully we can see you out in the tracker trail soon. See ya.